more fruitful and nourishing that land without always using chemicals as well as pesticides, because other plants can help keep those insects from eating the other plants when you add those plants together. For example, I plant marigolds with my sunflower seeds because the squirrels know where the sunflower seeds are. But if I have the marigolds there and they're strong and they're blooming, they don't tend to go into the sunflower seeds because they're hidden until they find them later. But then mint is also adherent to squirrels. They don't like it. So but it really grows like a weed, that mint. And you can use mint, but if you could plant flowers also with your mint, it would be something to look into. I mean, you may have some struggle with it, but it's something new. Maybe it's not new. Maybe it's something that's been revitalized as a way of taking care of the land as well as taking care of the plants without all that harsh chemicals and pesticides and growing things. And it's the more organic. There you go. I found the word. It's organic. So I like planting things. I like growing things. I don't like the squirrel and the raccoon always messing up with stuff that I don't like.
Marigold is a good deal as well.
What's that?
Deer don't like
Oh, they don't like marigolds.
But I find that there's a lot of deer resistant where I live.
Yes.
Deer resistant, they end up liking it anyway.
Yeah. And if they get used to it.
They're
So,
hungry. They're hungry enough.
so I thought that was, that was just interesting from my perspective.
I have a book at home that I'll try to bring in the next time, and it's like, it says, it's that, like, I think there's certain things you should grow together because they
Benefit each
they're
other.
competitive, where there's certain things you shouldn't grow together.
Yeah, I agree.
Like the squash and the beans and the corn, the three sisters that we indigenous people would always plant together.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's
Also,
very good.
farmers rotate their crops. If you plant tomatoes in a certain area, then the next year you plant something different.
Yeah. When I lived in Logan, my second parish, I lived next to Katrina Tohansen. And she's just a small woman, but she was an avid gardener, not much land in Logan, but she loved garlic. Garlic was everywhere. She had nothing, no mosquito repellent though. She was no bugs bothered her, nothing. The garlic. And then I had members from India who spoke Telugu. I don't know what section of India now. But they would eat spicy food. And they not only had the garlic, but they also had that curry. There we go. The curry. And that was in their food. It was a regular staple. And they would eat that. Again, they had no bites, mosquitoes, they had no flies, nothing was around. And when I went to eat at their house, I really enjoyed the yogurt to eat that chicken. The mild chicken, which was still pretty spicy. There was the did I say turkey? The hot chicken versus the spicy chicken. I went with the mild. I still had to eat the yogurt to get rid of the acid indigestion. But it was a repellent, and this is spicy. So now that I think of all that stuff, yeah. So yeah, they didn't have to spray. And then you get it. So that does pay to eat, or what's that thing? Garlic as well as curry, spices, mint. I don't know about mint. Yeah, and spinach is supposed to be very good for you too. Okay, number 5. Many expect to go shopping, get gas, visit restaurants, or have our children play organized sports on any day of the week, including Sunday. Did we talk about this already? How does this impact service workers and their families, and society as a whole, and faith communities? how does this impact service workers and their families?
Well, it keeps, excuse me, it keeps those people from having that day off and require work.
I worked part-time at a grocery store, but they usually didn't call me in on Sundays. I think I don't know if they had Sundays at the time when I started working there. But I was part-time, they made me work 39.5 hours. Up to very seldom ever did I work 40 hours. That would be considered.
That's considered, 39 is considered full-time by the IRS. Anything over 32 hours now is considered full-time.
Well, I worked 39 hours part-time, but I still had to go to school and still work with my dad. And, I don't know how, I was a teenager. I had a rough time getting sleep. You're right. You're right. How would you have any bound? They have to work on Sundays or 24/7.
I grew up in the era when my parents, my father particularly, wouldn't allow me to. I could play on Sundays, but I couldn't go out in the alley and play baseball. I couldn't play cards. We couldn't go to the movies.
Wow.
Now, being a girl, I could play with my dolls, or we could do puzzles. But as I got older, I can remember saying to my dad, "But you don't want us to go to the movies. But when church is over on Sunday, we go out to dinner. Therefore, you're expecting those people to cook the meal, serve the meal, clean up from the meal. You love to read your Sunday newspaper. Somebody put that together and delivered it to you on Sunday morning. You're expecting those people to work." Well, that's on it. My father and I had many issues. And as I got older and older, I realized even more. If you want your family to do nothing but rest, and you can't use any of the things that require other people to work. And I was very fortunate. Most of the time that I worked at Boscov's for 16 years, I did not have to work Sundays. I worked some. I got it down to I had to work one Sunday a month. And then we had a new department manager who did not schedule me for Sunday. She knew I didn't want to work Sunday. She knew I was here. And so that worked very well for me. But Boscov's is open 51 Sundays a year. Guess what? Which one is they're not open this coming week? Boscov's is not open Easter Sunday. Now, if Christmas falls on a Sunday, they're not open then either. But normally, no, I have not since Al Boscov founded the company over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
He does not say in the advertising, "We're closed Easter Sunday for our families to worship," or "our families." The ad just says we're not open Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
But every other Sunday we are.
Yeah.
And as we get closer and after Easter, we will be very, very busy on Sundays because of people coming to the shore to open up their seashore houses. So that we will get our weekenders coming Saturday and Sunday. We live in a society, and I know when my children, my older daughter was a competitive swimmer and had swim meets on Sunday, and I can remember JO's Junior Olympics was on a Sunday. She was scheduled to swim on a Sunday, and I went to our pastor at that time and said, "I'm going to tell her no, she can't participate." And he said, "Now, wait a minute." He said, "She is here in church and Sunday school. She sings in the choir every other Sunday. You were going to turn her off if you tell her no." So we let her swim. And you say, well, if all the parents got together and said, "No," live in the real world, folks, that won't happen.
You'll never get consensus.
You never get enough to say no Sunday soccer or baseball or swimming or whatever.
Was it Chariots of Fire the guy did not run his race on a Sunday because of his faith?
Yes,
That's a true story.
yes.
Chariots of fire, done out.
And quite honestly, I always felt that he made the wrong decision. This is the world we live in. I don't really think God would be angry because you ran in the Olympics on a Sunday. I really don't. I did not think it was the right decision.
And I was thinking in my mind, well, it's Sunday over here, but it's not Sunday where you live. That's Sunday over. So think of that. You're thinking, well, the next Sunday would be on Monday, so take that as Sunday. I don't know. I was trying to find a sneaky way to avoid, but still do what you want to do.
I grew up in the Amish community. And the
Uh-oh.
Amish are really probably the best example of what we're talking about here now. Because on Sundays, they do just, you see the horses in the fields doing nothing. That's crazy. You know, so they're not at work. And you see the Amish families that meet, they only meet every other Sunday. They don't meet every Sunday. Every other Sunday.
Wow. Why is that?
And they're all together on a farm for the day. And, you know, everybody's playing or having fun after their services, which last forever. So, but I do think that's probably what we think of when you think, at least what I think of, when I think of Sunday as a day of rest. That's the example. But in today's society that we live in, it's not.
Well, how did they get together if the horses are?
The horses are on, but the horses, that's the one thing, but then they tie them up and they're still doing anything the rest of the day. But the workhorses are in the fields, the big heavy workhorses.
And all the buckies are lined up at the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of my relatives are Mennonite.
Yeah, same thing.
And on a Sunday, I remember my Uncle Harry, the only reason he worked on Sunday between 12 and 1 was he had a radio. He was a radio guy. And he had a radio station up in his house, and he did the Sunday Noon Bible for the Mennonite church. And it was just a local station, and he did this. But they didn't say anything that he did that. You know, they were quite happy. But after that show was over at 1 o'clock, that was it. You know, you didn't go out and play any card or anything. If you were there, you had dinner and just, I don't know, discuss it.
And I was thinking, even though we're talking about religious, there would be people that are not religious. Would they benefit with a day off? First, instead of always working, 24/7 every day.
It depends what they're gonna do with that day, anyway.
I think they would benefit. Definitely rest. And if you're going to work every day, it's hard. Yeah.
Well, growing up in Ocean City, we had closed Sundays. It's very difficult.
Were the restaurants closed? I don't remember when I was a kid.
Restaurants, as I recall, were open, although some of them were not open, but there were certain things you could or couldn't buy. Now, if you wanted to go to the beach, well, heck, the lifeguards are working on it.
Yeah.
Police and fire are working.
Oh, yeah.
And then you were able to buy, as I recall, newspapers and magazines, but not books. So that meant you could buy a Playboy magazine, but not buy it. Good for you.
You could buy toothpaste, but not a bucket and shovel
Right.
Yeah,
from the same store.
Exactly.
You could buy
They
it.
have aisles
You
full
could buy lemonade, but you couldn't buy the cups to put them in or something.
Well, those are the days of the past. I mean, we remember it because we've been part of that past, and then also in our Bibles, they speak of the past in the Old Testament and how it was followed. And there were those who didn't follow the Sabbath day, and you will notice that in the Old Testament. They even worked on the Sabbath day, even though they knew they're not supposed to. They did anyway, and until another prophet came in and says, "We're going to go back to our ancestors and follow the Ten Commandments. This is what God expects of us." And
I think we've lost a lot of young people in our church, in any church, because of all these other activities that are going on Sundays that become more important. I mean, you see the children that are in church, but you don't see them after they get to a certain age. They're doing other things, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely the sports or they're working. They go to work pretty early too, or whatever other activity that they're doing. So I guess this is we talked about then the faith community. We don't see our teenagers or our young adults as often until they want to get married. Or baptized. Yeah. One of the things St. David tried, I don't know how successful it was, but once the child became baptized, there was you had this member from the church contact you and to help you remember your baptism, and then give you articles that help you along the way in spiritual reading or prayers, and to nurture that child then to come to Vacation Bible School and then come to Sunday school, so that you would still be linked with that family, with that child, and encourage them to then keep connected to the church.
Oxford Fortress publishes baptismal things that go for 3 months, 6 months,
That's it.
a year, that you would send home.
Yeah, and that was a way to kind of keep them connected.
So I remember getting something when my son was baptized, and we would get like I can't remember if it was every month or every couple months, we'd get something in the mail. It was related, that was from the church.
Yeah, as a reminder. As a reminder. Have you ever looked into the fair labor practices, including regular, predictable days off per week of the businesses and manufacturers you patronize?
I assume they're following the laws.
Well, there is one restaurant fast food, I guess fast food restaurant. Chick-fil-A. It just opened up in Danahocken, right across was Penn area. I visit Penn area a lot, but and once in a while Chick-fil-A. But I did try to go on a Sunday.
I know, that's the only
It's
time I remember
closed.
to go.
They will not open.
They will not open.
But I won't shop in Chick-fil-A because of their other.
Yeah, there are other. What's the word I want to look for?
Philosophy.
Philosophy. Yes.
Hobby
Yeah.
Lobby.
Hobby Lobby's the other one. I won't shop there.
What's hobby? Is that a food?
No.
It's a
Craft.
Craft? Okay, hobby doesn't sound like hobby. Okay.
And the place where you come in, 9th Street, Ocean City, that had all the outdoor furniture that used to be, not on Sunday. I think it's changed.
They're still not open Sunday, and I know who the manager is. Right now, the new manager, he's only been there since December. They're still not open, at least not at this time of year. Whether they will be in the summer, I don't know, but they're not open now on Sundays.
I guess it would be wise to, Google it and look up, not that you have to do that, the fair labor practices. Usually it's those lawyer shows that talk about certain practices, what is fair, what's not fair. And we were talking about accountants. The girl accountants, before anybody came, and then we were talking the practices that they were accountants, but they were still kind of not made equal with the men. This was in the 1980s even. And so there are practices that are not fair, or they're not followed because of certain respects to your gender or your race. So, number 7, what might be some ecological benefits of a Sabbath rest? I put down quiet, singing, and family time.
Less traffic.
Less traffic in the morning, but in the afternoon, they're all leaving Atlantic City. They're going home. And boy, do they go fast. And they still go fast. And they want all 3 lanes themselves.
There's a place where we live, yes, going home Friday night, Saturday, or Sunday, late afternoon into the evening's horrible. But if you lived in the middle of, in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where my daughter lives, you don't find that kind of thing. But we're very conscious of Sunday afternoon, evening traffic.
And I was thinking of when I would visit somebody up north, and let's go for a Sunday drive. As part of our relaxing, quiet time, to go look at, see things, like a sightseeing, and not go fast, right? This would take a while, you know. The Sunday drivers, some of the Sunday drivers are out early.
We used to drive through the Poconos on a Sunday afternoon back in the late 60s and early 70s, because it was very quiet at that time. But now it's like it is down here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You get people from New York, Jersey, all over.
I live right next to the woods, but it's very small. It's a strip. And there's a creek, and it runs into the cranberry bogs of a farm that was now made into a park. So there's a park where people bring their dirt bikes. And what are those Land Rovers or all-terrain vehicles? I can't remember all these fancy names. But guess where they're driving? On one night, weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, the day of rest and quiet. It's terrible. It's so noisy. And it's not quiet. And it smells like gasoline. So I said, so much for woods. It's quiet in the wintertime. But now that spring has come and it's summer and fall, they do find them. They're not supposed to drive back there, but they've got people that are visiting. They don't know they're not supposed to drive. So they do. So, and then on my way home, I see all these little kids on their, we're talking very young kids, on their all-terrain vehicles or bicycles or motorbikes. Motorized bicycles. And I've seen I'll say 4 or 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds already on motorized bicycles.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
And this is in the senior development. You're not supposed to. And they were driving all over places. It's not safe because seniors can't see what's moving. I'm one of those seniors that says, "Oh God, please don't let me hit the." Because you know how quick they are, and then you can't see them because it's so small. It's not a big deal. Oh well, see, now I digress. Okay. All right. Turn the page. Who would like to read that? Oh, we got to read scripture. Luke 4:16, Mark 2:23, 3:6, and Matthew 22:34 to 40.
I have one.
Oh, good. You read Mark. Anybody got Luke?
Yeah.
Okay, Mary, you read Luke. Al, you read Mark. Who wants to do Matthew?
Oh, you want me to read one?
Yeah, but not yet. I want to see who's going to read Matthew. Okay, Diane's got Matthew. Okay, good. Go ahead. Mary, read Luke.
When he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath day, as was his custom. He stood up to read.
That's Jesus. That's the son of Mary and Joseph. He was in the habit of going to the synagogue. Okay, Mark.
Okay, Mark 2:23. One Sabbath, Jesus was going through the grain fields, and as his disciples walked along, they began to pick some heads of grain.
That's all right.
The Pharisees said to him, "Look, why are they doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath?" He answered, "Have you never read what David did when he and his companions were hungry and in need? In the days of Abiathar, the high priest entered the house of God and ate the consecrated bread, which is lawful only for priests to eat. And he also gave some to his companions."
That was to chapter 3, verse 6. All the way to chapter 3, verse 6.
Oh, okay.
Keep going.
read the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
He then said to them, the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath. Another time he went to the synagogue, and a man with a shriveled hand was there. Some of them were looking for a reason to accuse Jesus. So they watched him closely to see if he would heal them on the Sabbath. Jesus said to the man with the shriveled hand, stand up in front of everyone. Then Jesus asked them, which is lawful on the Sabbath, to do good or to do evil, to save life or to kill? But they remained silent. He looked around at them in anger and deeply distressed at their stubborn hearts. He said to the man, stretch out your hands. He stretched it out, and his hand was completely restored. Then the Pharisees went out and began to plot with the Herodians how they might kill Jesus.
And they did that on the Sabbath. Isn't that funny? That's what they did on the Sabbath. We got to find a way to get rid of this guy. He's breaking the Sabbath. He's not following our control issue. Who's got Matthew, Diane?
This is probably the most important. When the Pharisees heard how he had fasted the Sadducees, they gathered their forces for an assault. One of their religion scholars spoke with him, posing a question they hoped would show him up. Teacher, which command in God's law is the most important? Jesus said, love the Lord your God with all your passion and prayer and intelligence. This is the most important, the first on any list. But there is a second to set alongside it. Love others as well as you love yourself. These two commandments are pegs. Everything in God's law and the prophets hangs from them.
Thank you for reading. I don't know if you've heard this old saying. There's an old saying, it's the exception that proves the rule. Have you heard that? Not me.
Really?
No?
No, it seems like such a common saying that to me.
Where'd you hear it?
I've never all my life. I'm very familiar with that.
It's the exception that proves the rule. How about that? Well, obviously I'm not old enough. There you go. That's my excuse.
Me too.
I found a way around it. Did you notice that? Yeah. From reading Luke 4:16, we can see that Jesus honored the Sabbath. He made a weekly habit of gathering with others at the synagogue to read and study the Torah, Psalms, and prophets, worship and give thanks to God. I'm going to stop right here because I want to tell you my experience. So at a young age, at 12, I'd already said I'm going to study and become a pastor because Mom said I should be a pastor. That's part of the reason. So Dad bought land up north of Wisconsin, and we would go on weekends to go up there and work. That meant Saturday and Sunday. And so our church, Grace, in Menominee Falls, would have church on Thursday for those who were going to the cabin on weekend to do church during the summer so that they would still make their obligation. So I would do that. I would go on Thursday night so that I would fulfill my obligation. I'm Lutheran, I wasn't Catholic, but I just felt this is the right thing to do. And so we go up to the cabin and work on that. And when Sunday came around, I said, this isn't right, we should be going to church. So Dad would listen to me, we'd go leave and go drive out of the woods and go find a church and go worship and then come back and then clean up and then go back down Menominee Falls. But it was something like a habit, and I just didn't feel the habit was taken care of on Thursday. It had to be on a Sunday. So that's what I did as a young kid. Is that funny? My other brothers had no problem. But for some reason, I must have, I was the first. So I must have had that habit instilled in me by my mom and dad. And they were both Sunday school teachers, so I could go.
Your brothers had the same
But you know, they were second line, third line, things began to fall apart. Yeah, of course. Have you heard of that?
But I still think that just shows that you were chosen.
Oh, well, I was brought up pretty strict,
But
so.
I definitely know I'm the oldest in my family, and I know I said to my mother many times, how come they can do, we never learn that. Never.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that the truth? How come I had to do it, but they don't have to do it?
But wasn't, weren't the Catholics one of the first ones to offer Saturday night mass as the exception to going to church on Sunday?
Yeah.
I found that interesting.
And
That
it's,
as much as they, you know,
Yeah.
stick to certain rules, they made that special dispensation, if you want to call it
Yeah.
that. You can go to Saturday night, and a lot of people had a hard time with that.
yeah,
They didn't feel that counted.
yeah, it's because it's not Sunday.
It's not.
And it's been ingrained in you, and you just, and so it's, yeah. And I was thinking, didn't they have Sunday night service too, before they had Saturday night? So that if they couldn't come Sunday morning?
I grew up with a very, very small church.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't believe that they jumped over to Saturday night.
Got some grandparent services, like 9 o'clock on Sunday night or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was to help those who work on Sundays.
Well, Trinity had, because the Episcopal Church here in town has a 5 o'clock Saturday night service and has, as long as I can remember, I mean, my husband and I, we were leaving for vacation on Sunday morning, we went there
Yeah.
on Saturday night.
And St. David's did have Saturday night, but it eventually died out. Less and less people were coming. The Wednesday night did not die out. They're still doing Wednesday.
We had a Wednesday.
Because it was the hump, you know, the midweek, and it helped, we were getting students coming on Wednesday night, that normally, young people, that would come Wednesday night, they would come on Sunday for whatever reason.
Was there a hungover from Saturday?
I was gonna put a better spin on it.
In Second Street, don't they have, church every day? I think my girlfriend goes to like an 8:30 service, and
Yeah.
church at Second Street, like every day.
Yeah, I went to a Milwaukee Lutheran high school, and there was church, or devotions every day, and there was a church service every once a week there. But again, I didn't think that was in place of Sunday. It's just, it was an add-on. You know, it's like Lent is still going on, even after Lent's over. It's a good practice. It didn't hurt me one bit. Okay.
Well, I kind of think if you worship, does it really matter? Sometimes if you're doing the worship and you're taking the time and resting, that it's not on exactly the same day.
Yeah, it's still worship, it's still a rest. Yeah, because you can have another, we talked about that last week, where we said the Sabbath day can be other than Sunday. But the Sunday becomes much more of a significant day because of the day of the resurrection, and that's the day.
I mean, I think you have our Wednesday night services and such, which were the same as the Sunday service.
Oh, yeah.
But we just did it on Wednesday night.
Okay, yeah, you can do that too.
Sometimes the traffic on Sunday is easier to park and come on Wednesday.
Yeah,
I was actually thinking about that for Bible study in the summer, that, I don't know whether there's more.
Well,
Oh, in the lot.
a lot, we have 22 spaces, so.
Okay, I remember the lot.
and you can always call someone and say, hey, pick me up, drop me off. And then you got Uber drivers. Okay, I know I broke in there because I thought it was important just to share that that was a habit. I didn't want to break it for some reason. Torah, Psalms, worship, give thanks. Oh, we read that. Okay. Jesus undoubtedly learned the practice of Sabbath from his Jewish parents. To refrain from work, enjoy the company of the community, and take it easy once every 7 days. We might imagine the child Jesus jumping out of bed with joy on a Saturday morning. Yep, in Nazareth, that's their Sabbath day. The Jewish Sabbath having begun at dusk the night before. No sounds of hammers or saws today. No need to help with chores, since all essentials had been prepared. the day before. If God the Father rested on the seventh day and marked it as special, why wouldn't God the Son? Do you agree? No disagreement? Who would like to read on? Anybody? Volunteer?
Yet according to all four Gospels, the young adult Jesus gets into hot water regularly regarding the Sabbath. It seems the religious authorities had turned a gracious, spacious understanding of the Sabbath into a legalistic power struggle. Anyone who has worked in a bureaucracy or in the legal system can relate to the way in which a narrow interpretation of a rule becomes more important than either common sense or the call to make a compassionate exception. Jesus taught and lived out a clear interpretive hierarchy among the commandments. The commands by which all other rules are to be judged: love God and love your neighbor.
Yeah, we talked about that. You have the first commandment, and then all the rest, if you break the rest, it still refers to the first. You're not following God's direction, which is for your own good and for the good of those that you are with, those in the community. So this is, again, an emphasis that if you love God, then love your neighbor. This is a very close-knit first commandment. Okay, any questions on that? As a teen, anybody want to read that?
Sure. As a teen, I worked as a grocery store cashier in Rockford, Illinois. The store was open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. At 8:50 p.m., all the workers started eyeing the doors. At 9 p.m. sharp, our manager, Bruce, would lock the door and we would breathe a collective sigh of relief. Quitting time. But every so often, a harried customer would come running up and frantically knock on the door. This might be an elderly man who had come back for just one forgotten item, or a mom who was desperate for a pack of diapers. Some of us, no need to mention names, would quietly mutter, "Hey, 9 o'clock is quitting time, Buster." When Bruce sometimes decided to let the person in to buy the one last necessity. "You gotta have a heart in this business," he would say. "Otherwise, it's the business that runs you."
You're here.
I don't know about Carol, but when you're reading that, I can't help but think of the food cupboard.
I know.
We sit at the food cupboard from 1 to 3, and at 5 to 3, we always say, wait for the person who's coming in at 5 to 3, because they always.
There's one customer who comes in at 2:45 all the time.
Yes, we start announcing at Boscov's.
Yeah.
Those doors are locked. I mean, we don't control that. That's security that walks around and locks the doors. But we have to wait on the people who are still in the store.
Yeah.
Have the register shut down also?
No. We wish that would we be able to say, I'm sorry, but we're not allowed to close our registers until, because security has cameras, they know whether there's somebody else in the store.
Yeah.
But I must admit, we say to ourselves, we have been here since 10 o'clock this morning. We need to go home. But I'm sorry, and then as you said, we have people who come with a cart full of things at 9 o'clock. And we can't say, I'm sorry. And then it's, I need to return this, and I need to buy this, and oh no, I don't want that anyway, and oh, I don't have my credit card, and we're supposed to be kind and sweet and gracious.
Yeah,
My husband had a business that closed at 9 o'clock, and he always joked that people waited around the corner at 5 to 9 and all left in.
Same in restaurants, you close at 2,
Yeah, they did.
lunch is over at 2, and they come in at 2 o'clock and have lunch. But I had a compassionate thing happen the other day, they're having people lock the doors, but, and I feel like I experienced with my son a lot of different compassionate things from people. A lot of people are very compassionate to special needs people and do nice things. So we were at the doctor yesterday, and we were at the dermatologist, and he doesn't have any hair in his head. So he had some sun things that needed to be taken care of. So I had said to the doctor he had these skin tags also under his arms, and could we take care of them? And he said, well, you know, his insurance does not pay for those, and there's like 10 or so of them, but you know what, I really like William, so I'm going to do that for you for free as a gift to William. And that was very nice, I thought. So that was what happened to me recently.
The business does not run the doctor runs the business.
And I'll tell you what, I didn't like this man. This is our third time seeing him. I did not care for him very much the first time that we saw him. And then we went back again, and I liked him a little bit better, and now I really like him. But it's funny, I never, in that first meeting with him, he was a little bit gruff and whatnot. You would have never in a million years expected something like that.
Something, he must have had an irritating customer or something.
Right, you never know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you gave you an opportunity to do something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't get a chance to do that very often.
I know that some people, when they get off of work and they have to get to a place to buy something, it really is like they're just barely making it under the wire. But where else are they going to go to get the item? Where else are they going to go to get the food? And when that buffalo killing, that's the only store in that whole community. And so once that store closed down, now they have to really find time and go the extra miles to go shopping to get the items that they need. And so some communities don't provide alternative places to get food and to be
These are called food deserts.
food deserts.
And
Atlantic
Atlantic City would be one, or Philadelphia would be another.
Yes.
And it's really a shame they have nothing but these little bodegas and stuff like that. Corners to rely on. And also, something I heard on the radio this morning in my car when I went to the grocery store, they were closing this TD Bank in this one town, and the closest TD Bank was now 3 miles away, which doesn't sound a lot if you have a car, but if you don't have a car, and they were talking to a couple of people older people who lived in the community there, for them it was a great hardship that they no longer have the TD Bank, even though it's 3 miles.
That changes everything. And that perspective that, where it says, you got to have heart in this business, you would say, otherwise the business would run you. So those circumstances keep still surfacing, because even with progress, then it's going to hurt someone else, because that routine is now altered, and now they got to find another way to get things
It is a shame that they say in some of these areas they don't have the grocery store just because the grocery stores will not open there because of the theft and all the other stuff that just goes on at the store. And there's people who live in those neighborhoods who are lovely people that suffer because of the people who aren't so much.
Yeah. I do know that some places also with that situation are now making gardens available so they can have fresh vegetables and help, and it's free. And a person is willing to give that up there, again, to help. It's not really a business, it's just really a community support system and to help keep the community healthy with that type of variety of food. Otherwise, you're right, it's not available. So I think we should end here. What do you think? We got 2 minutes left. And I've been practicing that prayer. I can't always remember, so I'm hoping I remember it. I've been practicing. I even brought, this was my first book of devotions when I went to college. Yeah, Fort Wayne, Indiana. And it has the prayer in here, so if I screw up, I can read it. But I had said it every day. It was like a habit. Every day. And now I don't really use this. I do different devotions. But I do have the Magnificat memorized and the Benedictus memorized and the Deum memorized because it was a daily thing. So then it became prayer. So one of the prayers I memorized is, grant, O Lord, that what I say with my lips, I may believe in my heart and practice in my mind. And then I made the prayer long, practice, practice, practice in my life. Because I thought I needed to hear it more than once for me to get it. So that was my little alteration. So the Lord be with you.
Also with you.
Guide us, O Lord, in all our doings with thy most gracious favor, and further us with thy continual help, that in all our works begun, continued, and ended in thee, we may glorify thy holy name, and finally by thy mercy obtain everlasting life. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. So this is the way I had said it, but I changed it. I say, direct us, O Lord, in all our doings. And then I modernized the English language. And then I add at the end, through the merits of Christ Jesus, our Lord and Savior. So in other words, even with all the work I'm doing, it's really through the work of Christ that I'm saved. So I take these prayers, I memorize them, and then I change them. And I laugh. I hope the Lord doesn't mind.
You'll find out.
Yeah.
Just to remind you, there is no Bible study next week.
Right. I'm on vacation, and I'm going to have eye surgery. They're going to take the cataracts out of this eye. They're going to do the stigmatization of the eyes that we take care of. What's the other thing? Oh, I'm going to get an old lens. I guess it's in good shape. And is that it? Those are the three things.
So are we continuing? I mean, this started as a Lenten study, so are we going to
Yeah.
continue?
Yeah. We're going to do overflow Bible study.
Good.
Well, I had cataract surgery several years ago, and I was very nervous. Because anything with my eyes freaks me out.
They're going to put me out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be at the hospital, and it's anesthesia.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
But I get what she's saying, anything
But
under
I
eyes,
have
that I
been
have
suffering.
a cataract. or
Yeah,
something
I was
like
gonna say, incoming, I don't like this.
It was definitely worth it. And so
That's what I was told. And I have to go right away because I have a doctor's appointment to do the EKG